With that said, let's go into the Kansas City Chiefs. What a great transition.
Torturous division.
They torture opponents.
I mean, yeah, they're really, really good, and they may have even just gotten better this year. The Chiefs, as we know, Super Bowl champions. They lose Eric Bieniemy, their offensive coordinator. He goes over to Washington for the same position. Kind of a weird departure there, but he's been expected to be a head coach for years, but things keep popping up. We're not exactly sure what. For the Chiefs, the offensive line is one thing we'll mention real quick. They lose, well, maybe not lose, but they let Orlando Brown Jr. go to the Bengals, and they bring in Jawan Taylor from the Jaguars. He'll be playing right tackle. He won't be filling in at left tackle. That'll be Donovan Smith from the Buccaneers, who had a down year last year, but has generally been very good. So both those guys who are coming in actually might be better than the tackles they've had the past few seasons. If anything, it's not really much of a regression on the line for the Chiefs. So still really good offensive line. The defense is underrated, and everything always comes down to Patrick Mahomes. When you have him, you can win with basically anybody. I mean, their receivers we were talking right before we started, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Kadarius Toney, and Sky Moore. If you put those three receivers on basically any other team in the league, you're not going to generate much offensively. But when you have the best quarterback maybe ever, it tends to work out.
Yeah, and an elite tight end.
And one of the best tight ends ever, yes.
I'm not going to lie to you here, Paul. There's not much that I have to say on Kansas City besides the fact that as long as they have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce on their team.
And Andy Reid, your guy.
No, coaching doesn't matter to me. But as long as you have the best quarterback of all time and one of the best tight ends of all time, and that duo, they'll be the front runner in the AFC for years to come.
Yeah, I mean
that's all there is to it. I mean, if you put most quarterbacks, if you replace Mahomes with most quarterbacks now in the league with the weapons they have, I don't think the Chiefs strike much fear into really anybody.
But with what they have,
with him and Travis Kelce.
Look, I know you're not a huge. For some reason, you're not a big Andy Reid guy, but the Chiefs haven't lost this division since 2016.
I think he just rode off McNabb and Mahomes.
Alex Smith was there for a while too. But again, the Chiefs haven't lost the division since the 2015 season when Denver won it. So it's just been a dominant ride. I mean, we're talking about honestly, a dynasty soon if they get another one.
I don't think their roster is full of world beaters.
They have a lot of good players.
They do, but I just think Patrick Mahomes is that good.
Yeah. Ziggy, what was it that you said right before we started about the Chiefs winning and losing Super Bowls?
Look, we've seen what the Chiefs look like when they have a bad offensive line and a bad defense. They lose in the Super Bowl. Right? When you have a good offensive line or a good defense, one of the two, then they win the Super Bowl. Right? Like, this team is just ridiculous. Mm-hmm. It's Patrick Mahomes in every single year he's started has made the AFC Championship game.
Hosted.
Yeah, hosted.
The AFC Championship.
Yeah, like that's just silly. Like, you can't. Maybe this team doesn't win the Super Bowl next year, but I can't bet against them in good conscience making the AFC Championship game. They're just that much better than everyone else.
I was talking to my brother the other day, another Steeler fan, mm-hmm. and it was just funny. He's like, we're talking about the Steelers and how we're expecting to be okay, and he was like, what stinks? As long as Mahomes is on Kansas City, like, we're probably not going to do anything. Because
unless you get one of those quarterbacks.
Because we're going to have to go into Kansas City in the playoffs and just get destroyed.
There was something funny that his wife said on the quarterback show when they were talking about playing some sort of game it was. And she just said, like, Patrick never loses anything. And I kind of found that funny because that's the feeling you get when you watch the Chiefs. It doesn't matter what the situation is. Again, the Bills game, 13 seconds left. If there's time on the clock, you feel like Patrick Mahomes is going to win. He's kind of got a little bit... he feels like the Steph Curry to some degree of the NFL, just like how explosive he is offensively. I've always had that connection in my head for some reason. And it's just this... this guy is a winner at the end of the day. That's what he does. We talked about Kelce obviously being great. Mahomes is great. The receiving corps is weak, but they have Patrick. The interior of the O-line too. Thuney and Creed Humphrey. Like, you go across this whole offense, it's great. Let's look at the defense here for a second. It's a good unit. It's underrated because of what you have on the offensive side of the football and the fireworks in Kansas City. But the D-line, Chris Jones is really all that they have in terms of star power. But at the end of the day, he's really all you need. He's one of the highest graded players in football last season. 12.5 sacks in 11 games. Linebackers, no real stars, but some guys who are great against the run, great in coverage. They bring in Drew Tranquill from the Chargers, a Notre Dame guy. Drew Tranquill, I will say real quick, was one of the coolest dudes when he was on campus. Like, played with a broken arm, team captain, had a wife, and was like a 3.8 GPA. And the guy was just unbelievable. And then
a 3.8 GPA in chemical engineering.
Right? Oh, chemical engineering. Yeah. I mean, the dude is just crazy. And then if you go back to the secondary, L'Jarius Sneed, really good. And Trent McDuffie's, during his rookie year, became one of the better cornerbacks in the league. Like, I mean, everywhere you look, this team is good. So there's not much more to say other than that they're really good, the favorites, and seeing the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'll say one thing real quick. Sorry, Ziggy, before you go. It'll be brief. The first thing is the fact that the Notre Dame starting linebacker had a 3.8 is why Notre Dame football will never win anything.
He's in the NFL. He's on the Super Bowl champions.
And second, I don't care. That's not Notre Dame.
That's just luck of the draw.
That's fellow.
That means he's a really good player.
That's playing with fellow pros. He's a
really good player.
That's playing with fellow pros.
He's a 12th best coverage grade in football at linebacker. He's a really good.
When did they pick
player.
him in the draft?
It doesn't matter. When did they draft Tom Brady? It's like it doesn't matter. Well, he's good.
You think bad linebackers are 3.8s?
No, he's good.
Tom Brady's 1 in a million.
And then the second thing I want to bring up is you mentioned Chris Jones, the only real superstar, your star defensive player they have, and it kind of reminds me of not as good, but it reminds me of T.J. Watt in a sense when he's there on the field when he's making plays. A star like that can kind of boost the entire defense. Like what TJ Watt does. The rest of the defense plays better when a guy like that's there. And this unit defensively is good enough where the offense will be scoring 30-plus points and games shouldn't really even be close. Like if the defense was bad, it's one thing, but this defense is good. Good, and I wouldn't say great. I'd say very good.
Yeah, like that's the scary thing about Kansas City.
Yeah, and that's what makes them near impossible to beat. It's like tackling a bear to beat them.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about how important Chris Jones is. He's like the TJ Watt, and that
like helps. Sorry, Ziggy.
I'm sorry. That was a ridiculous comment out of nowhere.
It's trying to tackle a bear.
It's like tackling Zach coming at you, a healthy Zach.
Yeah, it's tackling a healthy Zach coming right at you.
I'm sorry, Ziggy.
Tackling a bear is easier.
Ziggy's been interrupted like 8 times every time he's trying to speak.
Go for it.
We're good. I will say, I will come to New Jersey and beat your ass.
All right, go ahead.
Wait, it's like Ziggy's rat infestation. Infestation.
We gotta
just keep coming back.
We don't have to talk about the rats.
Go for it.
I don't want to think about the rats. Look, Chris Jones, a star like that, you can see why he's holding out, why he's trying to get a big deal. My guess is he wants something just under what Aaron Donald's being paid. Something like that $28 to $30 million range, and especially with Chris Jones leaving for the Broncos. It'll be interesting to see how the Chiefs handle this, because I can absolutely see them letting him walk, right? Deciding, we've got a good offense. We don't want to fork over star kind of money. We've done well without you, or without like investing heavily in players. Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to see how they handle this, because if they let him walk, I mean, the defense doesn't have a whole lot of talent.
I mean, it's still a very good defense, but he's the guy. Like he is the leader of that defense.
Every great defense in the NFL has the guy.
Yep.
Right? Whether it's Aaron Donald or TJ Watt or Khalil Mack on some of those great beer defenses. Yeah, Micah Parsons. Like no matter how much talent you have to have the guy up front.
Yeah,
or you'll never be a great defense. Nick Bosa. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what they do here. But definitely, it is not a guarantee that he'll stay with the Chiefs. I actually think he's gone.
How old is he? Wow. Do we know how old he is?
He's 29.
He's 29. Right.
I was gonna say.
I think he's a young 29 too. I think he turned 29 less than a month ago.
I think he's like 40.
He does look like he.
I mean, bro's got 50. He had 15 sacks last.
You're telling me that guy's not even 30 yet? That guy's only 4 years older than us.
Did he have 15? I thought he had 12 and a half. Oh wow, jeez, sheesh. Yeah, that's crazy.
You know who him and Calais Campbell remind me of each other. I don't know why.
Campbell's probably like 26.
Campbell's old. But the way they play is just so similar.
When you were talking great players on great defenses, I was going to be like Danielle Hunt. Maybe not.
It's not sufficient to have the guy, but you have to have the guy.
Yes.